About strategies. 置，然后中洞站，然后。
这个可以卖吗？
可以收集10张就有10张不同的，
就有 free concert。我们那年是也太少，那天我去请那个副校长陈良基，就是可能来的客人还是来做那个就是创业，台大创业，然后他的秘书说他跟王海玲认识，然后他的秘书就是叫林宏仪，林秘书。She would love to meet you。我说好，我下次把他带到台大副校长室去。
可以啊。
好啊。哎 ，Louis ，good to see you. Yeah, so you sneaked in without a problem, just like you said, like I'm there.
I don't even mention it.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, okay. So it's just like you coming here from I'm slightly stressed. So it's a bit no, it's the because I think that finally it's just a
主任，不好意思，这是我们基金会董事长，这是世代乐器你也可以老师。
都有。
然后就等校长。
给你名片吗？还没有。
刚刚给我了。
刚给你了。
这次谢谢你。
谢谢。
送过来。
对。好。
校长。
Professor Thomas or President Young?
Hi.
Professor Thomas. Just arrived yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From Singapore?
Yeah, they've been working for many years in Malaysia.
Stay in Singapore.
I work primarily as
Welcome.
second time to Taiwan in many years.
Wow. 74, so after more than 30, 40 years.
So I feel very, very
Okay, so our team is they have a seat. 杨董事长，哎，我们杨校长，哎，今天这个跟我们合作办这个论坛，哎，这个业界的，哎，好，是业界的，不好意思，我先跟你拿笔写，刚刚正好亲戚都，杨万校长是，对呀，我们说要不要陪校长唱歌啊？林教授，来跟你介绍一下。
哎，你好，
2年前才回来。
那我同学
是啊。
各位与会的来宾，我们的论坛即将在5分钟后正式开始，请各位准备入席。
next one is
这三个字是
创新、创业跟创新。
是这个不是吧？
是啊，是啊，是啊。
就这三个字。
对对，就是这个三个创意。
Creation，那跟经济没有关的。
哦，跟经济没有关。
对不对？不是啊，我是说两个都不太起来。
对，好改善一下。
都不太。
所以下次要找人请校长那个。
没有，我只是他们都不起来。
创新、创业、创经济，2015三创经济学论坛正式开始。我们首先感谢由三发文教基金会、国立台湾大学以及开南大学全力支持这一次的论坛，让国内的新兴学子得以让梦想起飞，让国内的产官学界得以和国际正式接轨。论坛的首先，我们来欣赏一则简短的 VCR 影片。论坛一开始，我们感谢让我们这次的经济学论坛得以在台大以最高规格来呈现的杨校长。那我们一开始，我们热烈的掌声欢迎我们的杨汉成杨校长上台为我们致辞，说几句话。谢谢校长。
Professor Kosnick, ladies and gentlemen, Louisa Bennett, good morning everyone. I would like to thank the Stanford Foundation to host this very wonderful meeting. Actually, we are also the co-sponsor, the Office of International Affairs, that they also have to organize this meeting. I would like to extend warmest welcome for you to attend the forum. The new economy of creativity, creation, and recreation. Actually, the title of today's forum actually reminds me article that published in October 2014 in Nature. Actually, that article talk about the university must evolve if they are to survive. That special issue talk about that university are trying to free themselves from old habit and thought and to explore new way of doing things. Today, they are supposed to be not only a center or hub of education, and discovery, but also an engine of economic growth, a beacon of social justice and laboratory for new modes of learning. Now many universities are aggressively promoting the interdisciplinary centers, emphasize multidisciplinary research, innovation, and effective teaching method, and most importantly, the commercialization. So we put out a lot of effort, try to facilitate the commercialization of research by putting the scientists from industry in the same building as their academic counterpart and try to let them have interact with each other. However, the most big challenge to a university like NTU is that we have to change our mindset, our ivory tower mindset, to let the faculty, especially our senior members, to disdain the commercial activity. We need to change our mindset. So actually NTU is trying very hard to promote the innovation, entrepreneurship, and multidisciplinary research. So we set up a D-School. We copy from Stanford University, and also we set up a Spark program. Daniel came here. He's the founder. She's the founder, and we learned from her. And we set up NTU Spark here, and we have also NTU Garage. Try to set up a platform, encourage our students to be more innovative, more creative, and have the confidence of in facing the challenge, and also the entrepreneurship. We also have some successful examples that some of our undergraduate students actually they design a 3D printer, and they try to they move to Silicon Valley, and within 1 month they already raised $1.6 million US. This is quite a successful example. So today we also have a local expert together with Professor Kosnick. I'm sure that today's meeting will be very inspiring and very helpful for everyone. Thank you very much.
好的，我们非常谢谢校长，让我们这一次台湾大学能够和国际接轨，和史丹佛大学做一次正面正式的交流。那么紧接着，我们邀请到的是张淑英，也是现任台湾大学外文系教授兼国际事务处国际长张淑英张教授。
Today is the first day of the new semester, so I think the forum of today will be a very good beginning for all of us. Well, first of all, I would like to thank our President Yang because he gives us a strong support always for every event that Office of International Affairs hosts. So my first deep gratitude to our President Yang. And now I would like to give my warming welcome to Professor Thomas Kosnick and the Director Zheng from Singapore. You know, friends from far away is always a pleasure for us. And also distinguished President from Sanfa, President Yang, President Zheng from Sanfa Foundation, and the dear colleagues from other universities of Taiwan, and dear friends and students inside and outside of the NTU campus. Welcome and good morning, everyone. Well, I'm Luisa Chen, Professor of Spanish, Department of Foreign Languages and Literature, and also Vice President of National Taiwan University. Well, I feel honored to give a few words as opening ceremony for today's significant event. So I will start with Picasso, who once said, every child is an artist, but the problem is staying an artist when you grow up. So it seems ironic that the more we grow up, the farther we deviate away from creativity. And it is also paradoxical that the more creative the more training we receive to be creative, the less creative we become, right? So most of us today here were trained either in academia or in the industry. But how do you face the fast change world in today's digital and global society? I think this requires to think beyond this limit. So I think today's forum is a great attempt to address these important issues. Well, let's take myself as an example, wearing 3 hats as a researcher, teacher, and administrator. Creation and creativity are very important because without creativity, I will be a lousy scholar. Without recreation, today I have 3 hours of class. Maybe I will be a boring teacher for my students. Without creativity, I will lead a bureaucratic team in our office. So I think the creativity and creation is a current issue for our staff. And I think the topic of today, 三创经济学, is a quite new in Chinese term, also quite new English lexicon, but creatology accurately captured the Chinese meaning. And today's recreation and creation, I think, need the collaboration of every field. So I think today forum, all the panelists today from different fields and disciplines will do a cross-disciplinary dialogue. And I think this cross-disciplinary dialogue is also the key to success of higher education today. So I would like to end my remark by sharing with you about what I have learned from Stanford University. Because just this May, Professor Richard Saylor is Dean of Sciences and Humanities at Stanford University. He came to NTU to give a lecture on innovation, creativity, and humanities. And a few days later, after his lecture, I got an opportunity to visit Stanford University, Silicon Valley, and MIT Harvard Innovation Lab. And I found all these world-class universities, they try to put top-ranked schools, that means engineering, humanity, social sciences, together in close proximity. So I think today's cross-discipline will be a very good lesson for all of us to learn, and it will be a big issue for more progress in our modern society. So I anticipate to see the spark generated from today's forum, and wish you all the success. Good luck. Thank you very much.
好的，我们非常感谢感动张国际长为我们温暖的分享。那么紧接着我们邀请到的是三发教育基金会，也是金悦大饭店的董事长杨显麟杨董事长为我们上台致辞，有请杨董。
校长杨校长，还有史丹佛大学教授科斯尼克先生，还有各位教授、各位贵宾，大家早，大家好。很荣幸今天能在这里表达我对台湾大学杨教授、张国际长、副国际长，还有开南大学张主任的感谢。当然，最重要的还是史丹佛大学教授科斯尼克先生。除此之外，与会的各位贵宾，交通大学生医所所长，台湾师范大学音乐系陈主任，精品公司尤董事长、李总经理，还有许多无法一一唱名的贵宾。这都是这一场论坛不可缺的主角。三发教育基金会从99年到今天，举办过英语的夏令营，我们着重外文的教育，也曾和国际参与大学合作过全国烘焙大赛，培育出相当优秀的高点人才。今年基金会也本着教育为出发点，举办各个年龄的音乐大赛，并提供发行唱片与公开演出的机会，在显示我们对人才培育 不分年龄为出发点。16世纪英国的文豪培根说：“只要有方法，既可以学天下的知识。”这说法虽然有点夸饰法，但是从此我们可以看得出学习的方式的重要性。今天在这场论坛，呼应了不止培根的理念，也同时落实了英国政府在2009年将英国的教育部改为商业技能与创新部的创举。现今台湾的教育最重要的方向，也就是未来我们最需要的是能将产业升级、发挥技能价值的人才。商业技能既然英国最重要的国家发展方向，我们台湾何尝不是呢？所以我们举办了创新、创业以及创意的产业为主的论坛，结合了国内外一流的学者，让各位来宾能够听到最先进与最实在的方法，就是以国家发展与挑战世界为前进的目标。感谢台湾大学提供了最好的一个场地，让不只来聆听的听众，甚至演讲者备受礼遇与尊荣。再次感谢杨校长还有国际事务长的帮忙，也谢谢开南大学的事务长帮忙。三发教育基金会会继续以爱因斯坦的名言作为本会持续向前的目标与价值。谢谢。
好，谢谢杨董为我们的分享。我们知道三发地产、三发教育基金会向来就是融合国内的建筑以及音乐，致力于台湾产官学界的规划以及发展。那么紧接着，我们马上欢迎到的是我们张主任张世豪博士为我们上台致辞。
Thank you for coming today. In fact, 8 years ago, I developed this program, Creative Industry and Digital Integration in Hainan University. But still, we had a problem with the term for that. A lot of students and their family told me, say, what's integration? What kind of job they are going to have? What kind of business will be developed after their graduation? So after the meetings, we decided to develop a digital film. Instead of integration. But still, integration is very important right now for your thinking, for your business, and for all kinds of development. So I brought a film about the integration. So integrate a lot of things together for today. Can I show the film today? Hainan developed, and this new program. So we brought in a lot of young professors from abroad, doctors, and we worked together a lot of things, and it will be very interesting. Creativity is coming from a lot of connections and integrations, and this was presented by Steve Jobs. And in fact, the broader one's understanding of the humanity, the experience, the better designer we're going to have. Creation, and we have to know, because that's the concentric circles need to brought into our lives. And in fact, not only once, it has to be carried on. So cross the border, cross the professions, and it's very important. Industry must be productive and duplicate, and also it has to be nice, and it has to be commercial developed. And David Parrish mentioned that T-shirt and suits. It's a very interesting idea for combining this integration. So that's most interesting words saying when you're asleep, money is still coming into your bank. So how will be that developed? And Sanfa, I think, provide a kind of idea for that. Humans need to connect their lives and experience, and we need a lot of thoughts to be connected. Education will be the basis for the social sense and understanding. So in fact, we developed the digital films and making, and the films concerned about human. What kind of human idea for that? What kind of human concerning we need to present it to the world, to the society. And also we developed a brain and concert, a live concert. It's also it's very important. We team up with Sanfa, we team up with Singer to work together a lot of music, images, and products. That's our idea for that. I do hope this will be helps a lot of students to coming into this business. And maybe after today's discussion, I think they will be having new ideas for their future, for their products. Thanks.
好，非常感谢我们科技大学的张世豪张主任为我们这一段精彩的致辞。那我们在准备进入论坛讨论之前，我们请现在在场的几位贵宾为我们先起立，为我们大家集体来做一个合照。那我们现在会每位贵宾发放一件我们三发校基金会的制作的 T 恤。
那个谢谢。
那个就是大家我们在校长我们在前面，然后我们照从这个方向照。试一下，然后我们用上次那个。
不用穿，照相用哦。不用，直接站就是在座位上就可以照了。哎，对，因为那个台大的校长，不好意思，谢谢。
这个当然很难穿吧？
没有穿，只是拿着而已。对，没有穿比较帅。不是的，就是。
哇，还蛮可爱的。
没有站起来，这样照相吗？有一次。站起来比较好照，站起来。
站起来应该比较好照。
然后这位贵宾，我们先起立一下。
后面的也起上来站起来。
来，我们各位来宾，我们就是全部一起起立好了。
好，我们请全场参与的来宾，我们先全场一起起立，我们做一个大合照。
开张。
OK， 谢谢。
好的，我们经济学论坛在5分钟后正式开始，我们现在先稍作休息。
不用收，因为我们没关系，不用。不要收。不用收。
没关系，因为袋子都有。
期待都有一件新的。
对。
鼓掌照相啊。老师，麻烦可以 move 一下，不好意思，上来照相。董事长，
我们先照一张。好，我们再往右一点。
等一下一照。
You must make sure that we all are handsome and beautiful.
谁喊下吧？
好，看这里，1、2、3。然后看这里哦。来，1、2、3。
然后等一下我也。
开始哦。再来。1、2、3。
OK， 好，谢谢。
我们再靠近一点，靠近一点。
Yeah, and reduce space.
3分钟后，我们论坛第1阶段即将开始，请贵宾准备入席。
好，
idea. Okay. Yes.
好的，我们三创经济学第1阶段论坛正式启动，由我们史丹佛的大师为我们展开精彩的论述，我们掌声热烈欢迎。
Welcome everyone. I am so honored to be here. Back in Taiwan, the first time I came was 1974. I was a very young man. And now I'm back. I've been trying to get back to Taiwan since then, so I'm so excited to be here with you. And I want to thank all of our sponsors for making it possible for Kay and I to come. You already know that I teach at Stanford, and you may know that we collaborate with the National University of Singapore. What you may not know is that I've been lucky to be, if you will, an advisor and helper to many, many teams of young entrepreneurs, both in Singapore and Silicon Valley and around the world. And I was very excited to hear about the success of your entrepreneurial team in raising money, right, when they came to Silicon Valley. I can't wait for more of those who are in the audience to decide that they'd like to not only be successful here in Taiwan, but enter the U.S. market as well. So I hope you'll think of coming, and certainly we'll be there to help you and to welcome you.
大家早上好，我是郑凯峰。今天早上非常高兴能够从新加坡过来跟 Tom 跟你们分享 Gear Up。Tom 和我非常热衷创新还有创业，所以希望今天介绍你们的这个 Gear Up 系统能够帮你们这么做。那刚才已经提到了，我是新加坡过来的。那如果你们有新加坡的朋友，你们会知道我们的国语有待进步，所以今天如果有说的不好的地方，请你们见谅。然后有时候我也可能会直接就说英文了，因为会比较快一点。Okay, let's go.
Okay, and unfortunately, the only, and I don't know if I would pronounce it properly if I say it here in Taiwan, but if I say ni hao, say that again. And if I say xie xie, so thank you. Okay. So, what is Gear Up? I have to remember, go in the right direction. Gear Up is a system that will help anyone who has a new idea, a creative idea, to find a way, first to make sure it will make a good business, and then to help you take that idea to market. Whether it's a new product, a new service, a new film, any kind of creative activity that you'd like to earn money and also have a social impact, this system, the Gears, will help you to do it. And what we'll do is, one by one, we'll talk about each of the gears. If we had more time, for example, if we could capture you and keep you for a day, we would stop after each gear, you would work on your new venture or your new product idea, and then we would move on. But today we have only 1 hour, so we're going to give you just a highlight of what this experience is about. So, in essence, I should have shown you these slides as I just said what I said earlier, so my apologies. I'm simply told you ahead what's going there. Now, think about yourself and also people you know. Do you fit into any of these categories? No. Pardon me?
You gotta show the next slide.
I know. Give me a minute. The first group of entrepreneurs that we've worked with since we started Gear Up about 5 years ago are young entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs, often university students from around the world who say, we would like, instead of looking for a job, we'd like to create a company that will create jobs for ourselves, for our friends, and for many people around the world. The second group is for leaders of companies that are already established, already successful, and they've grown, right? And they're saying, we'd like to enter a new market. And then, sometimes, very large companies worry because their growth is slowed. And they say, what do we do now? We have young companies coming and threatening us with new technology. How do we continue to grow our business even though it might be billions of dollars in US dollars or hundreds of thousands of employees, right? And we might be 50 years old or 100 years old, but how do we keep coming back to life? And so in the past, till now, we've had companies in all three areas work with Gear Up to successfully launch new products. I am actually the third author on Gear Up, not the first. And this, what you can see briefly, is Lena Rönnfeldt, who was the lead author, was a university professor from Sweden who then became an angel investor and a social entrepreneur. And she actually helps entrepreneurs, especially in Nepal, where she goes climbing. She helps people in poor villages there to get books for the children to read. Jonas Kjellberg is the person who took Skype global. Do any of you use Skype here in Taiwan for international calls? Well, Jonas is the guy who brought it. And he wanted to have a book that was very short, not too much text, interesting pictures so that all of us would enjoy the learning. And here are the 9 gears. We'll start with customers and then delight. In fact, you can read, right? You can read faster than I can talk. In a very quick sequence, Kay and I will go back and forth and talk about each of these 9 gears. But remember, one gear by itself won't work. If you have 2 gears that don't work together well, what happens? The machine stops. So it's important to understand the gears, but think about how they can work together well. So the first gear is about customers. Oops. And in Silicon Valley, people made mistakes for many years because what we would do is we'd say, we have a new idea for a product or service, new technology, but we can't let anyone know about it because someone would compete with us and steal our idea. So they would wait, work quietly, launch a product, and unfortunately, more than 90% of those new products failed. Why? Because they hadn't gone out to the customers to make sure the customers had a problem or a pain that they would pay to get a solution for. So this symbol of the pain is find customers who have a problem, and then really understand the problem deeply, and then come back and forth. You bring them a sketch, you show them a PowerPoint slide, you show them a 3-dimensional model of the things that you might bring to help them to solve the pain. And it's by doing that process one time after another, only then will you have a product that you know has a market. Because what happens at that point is when the product is ready to go into the market, these customers who have worked with you will say, I will buy it. I helped create it. I know it works, it solves my problem. And then they will turn to all of their friends and colleagues in business or other consumers and say, you should buy this. I helped to create it. I know it works, it's really great. Okay? So that's the first gear. It's all about the pain. Now, Kay will talk about, I'm sorry, I forgot to. Maybe we'll talk about what you do about the pain, delight.
所以当你了解客户的痛楚的时候，那第一个装备就是说非常了解客户到底面对什么问题。那第二个装备呢，就是当你了解那个痛楚的时候，你一定要给予客户喜悦感。那么你可以看到这里，我们谈的不是功能，我们也谈的不是效率。功能和效率，你的竞争者都有。如果你要创业，你要创新的话，你一定要有那一部分喜悦感，这样你才能够跟其他的人脱颖而出。没有喜悦感，那你在谈的只是价钱，我的价位多少，竞争者的价位多少。所以这一点，这一个第二个装备非常非常的重要，而且也非常需要有想象力。刚才几位之前的教授谈过的想象力，那是非常的重要的。曾经困在赛车中吗？这部分我看我用英文讲可能比较老实一点，比较快一点。If you've been stuck in traffic before, you'll be very frustrated. Now, if you wanted to start a new car company, you want to build a car that would solve this pain, what would you do? A faster car wouldn't work. If you had more power in your engine, you're stuck in traffic, doesn't matter, you're still stuck in traffic. What if I told you that we could have a flying car? 这个人秀逗，那再跟我们讲会飞的车。If you had a flying car That would solve the problem, because if you think about it, you're stuck in traffic, you press a button, your car floats up into the air, and it flies away to your destination. Or better yet, you fly from your home straight away to your office in a flying car. Now, it sounds a little absurd. 听起来有点荒谬。我们在谈塞车，你跟我在说这个会飞的车子，这到底有什么相连？这个装备就是要你想，今天有点荒谬的东西。Next slide。如果我告诉你，如果我要发明一辆车子，不需要驾车的，就不会出意外，因为它没有人驾，然后它会自行的从 A 到 B 啊，你就坐在后面看报纸就行了。5年前，如果我站在这里跟你说这件事情，那你也会说，这非常的荒谬，你在讲什么？如果你去go back one slide， 如果你去找 Tom in Silicon Valley， 你去附近的 Palo Alto， 你会知道谷歌他们已经开始在有这种无人驾驶的汽车了。5年前是非常荒谬的想法，现在已经有好多辆车子在 Palo Alto 城市里面驾来驾去。所以5年前的荒谬，今天已经渐渐的变成事实了。如果你没有看新闻 ，Elon Musk 也就是发明 Tesla 你的那个电动跑车嘛。Everybody know Tesla? I know Peter knows Tesla. 所以他也在想说，那怎么解决这个交通问题？所以他也在想说 Hyperloop， 就好像一辆车子现在好像一个子弹这样从 A 到 B， 从 LA 到 San Francisco， 驾车要差不多5-6个小时。Hyperloop 如果能够实现的话，35分钟不到。所以昨天的荒谬是今天的竞争力，也是明天客户的喜悦感。所以这个装备让你想象超越功能、超越效率，要怎么样给那个喜悦感
？So the next gear, once you've found the delight, is to find customers who will pay. And in America, we talk about a sales funnel, and a sales pipeline. So people who could be customers start here at the beginning, and only a few will actually buy the product. Right? So you have to think about how can we get more and more of our customers to buy the product. These leaks in the pipe are reasons that customers don't buy. Maybe your price is too high. Maybe your salespeople do not listen to the customers and they're not very effective. Maybe once some customers have bought, the customer support people in your company are not very helpful. So the idea of the pipe is you want to increase the percent of customers from the whole market who will buy your product. And the way to do that is not only to make your product delightful, but to make your company delightful, your people delightful. So the customers say, not only do I like the flying car, but we love the company that brought us the flying car and the people who work with us along the way. Next is partners.
OK， 所以Tom刚才提到说伙伴，那你如果看到这个东西，我想要谈的就这四角的这种伙伴。那在下面呢，这个是能够让你增加你的喜悦感、客户喜悦感的伙伴，我们也叫做 learning partner。They teach you something about customers and help you delight them。所以有学习伙伴。那这一部分呢，就是能够帮你赚钱的伙伴，销售方面的伙伴。所以那有一个恐龙，为什么这例子蛮有趣的？就沃尔玛在美国，他帮很多小型企业卖他们的产品，因为沃尔玛是一个很大的一个超市。不过沃尔玛也是一个相当恐怖的那个渠道伙伴，因为他直接告诉这些供应商说：好，我要这个量、这个颜色、这个单价，你就是这样卖给我。我怎么说，你怎么卖给我，然后我就怎么卖给客户。所以他们为什么叫恐龙呢？因为你不知道他们几时会转过头来把你咬了，所以就叫恐龙。所以你要去的是这个角落，策略性伙伴，也就是说，他们能够让你学习怎么样取悦客户，也能够帮你赚钱。那当你 当你在创业或创新的时候，一定需要伙伴的。那你再想一想说，我应不应该跟这个人结盟或者成为伙伴的时候呢？这有好几点能够考虑到的，而且你要考虑的是，我能够给伙伴什么，然后伙伴能够给我什么，因为一定是这样公平交易，不一定公平，不过一定会有交易。所以这就是一些部位的科技、资源、关系、民生、核心竞争力。法规方面，伙伴之间的协调性，还有公司的远景，还有你的目标，好，所以这就是一些应该考虑到的方面。
The next gear is business model. This means how do we make money? How do we turn our good ideas into profitable products or services? So part of what you need to do is to think about being very creative in lowering your costs, while at the same time keeping the delight in the product very high. We have something called the zero game. What is the zero game? You look at the industry, you look at other competitors, you say, what are their highest costs, and how can we either reduce those costs to zero, or can we reduce them to a very low number? How many of you remember what it was like to shop for books in an old-fashioned bookstore, right? You go to the mall, go downtown, look at the books. What was the highest cost for the booksellers, do you think? What do they pay the most money every year for? Any ideas? Rent. So they had to pay for the building. That's the most important part. So along comes Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. He says, cost of rent for me is zero for retail, so there are no more stores. Second most expensive thing, what do you think? Yes, the salespeople in the stores. Jeff Bezos goes, no more salespeople, right? And if you think of our pain as customers, when we used to go to those bookstores, often the book was not there, right? Not in stock. And then often the book retailer's problem was they had leftover books that no one wanted. So what Amazon was able to do was dramatically lower the cost of inventory too. You have inventory in just a few places. When someone gets on the internet and says, send me the book, they send the book. So he completely changed that industry by playing the zero game. There are other companies who are doing it, and Kay will talk for an example of some of those a little bit.
I think a lot of companies today actually play the zero game, and I'll speak in English because it's faster. If you think about how it was to advertise and promote your products 10 years ago, you're talking about media buying, you're thinking about television, print, thinking about radio. But in the past 10 years, a shift has happened such that you can reduce your marketing budget sometimes quite a lot, close to zero, if you think about social media marketing. So you go on Facebook, LinkedIn, WeChat, and all that, and you can really reach out to your customers without paying all this media to do so, and you can control the message. You can be very responsive. So that's an example of how some companies squeeze the advertising budget and play the zero game with social media.
So another part of the business model is to think about what your customers need besides the product itself. We call this the whole product. So the whole product is all of the things that the customers need to delight them. What do we see? I call this our biker chick, right? And so what does she have? Not just the motorcycle, but she has the leather jacket and hat and customization and insurance and fuel, oil or gas if it's a gas powered. And then you also need an open road so you can take off with your motorcycle really fast and enjoy it. So every product has more than just the product. So if you have an innovation you're thinking about, say, what else do we need to add to make the whole experience of our product delightful? This is an example of a tool that we use in Silicon Valley to do that. Doesn't this look a little bit like a pie? Right? And so in the center, would be the motorcycle, if we think of the last example. But then you need insurance, and you need gasoline, and you need the clothing, the leather clothing, you need boots, and so on. So you identify all the things that the customer needs for delight, and then you ask, who will provide them? Will our company do it all by itself, or do we need a partner? And then you go back to what Kay just talked about in the partners, and you find partners that will play the right role for you. Some of them will be strategic, some will be the dinosaur, the Jurassic partner, some will be learning partners, but they can help you because your company doesn't have to do all of this to make it possible. I'm going to show you just an example. We won't talk about it, but imagine that you were in a company that had software that companies and governments would buy. So let's imagine that this is the software, right? That's the software itself. But in order to run the software, you need computers, and you need printers, and you need perhaps a connection to the other systems in the company. You might need trainers or consultants. And so the software company in Silicon Valley, the new one, says, okay, we're not going to do that all ourselves. We'll find other people in other companies who will do their part. The next part of the business model, and I'm sorry. This is a slide that has both the Mandarin and English on one. I got confused. So imagine companies get more profitable when you go from the basic idea at the very beginning, right? No company, no product, and so on, all the way out to where you have a company, you have customers, you have revenues, and you're making a good profit. So the risk goes down as you go this way. Then you want to think about how much money do we need from different sources of capital. And what we're going to show you are the different sources of capital that are usually available to entrepreneurs in different parts of the world. First, governments sometimes get involved. Maybe a little money at the beginning, right, to help this company along. And some governments will give more funding as the companies become more profitable to support an industry as opposed to global. The next one is called the 3 F's. It's friends, family, and fools. So this is very dangerous because if you ask your grandmother for her money and your product fails, you have to go to your grandmother's house and say, I'm very sorry. So try not to have too many family members invest in your business unless you're sure it's going to be successful. A new thing that's come just in the last few years, and perhaps some of you have even done it, is crowdsourced funding. In the United States, there are companies like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And in Taiwan, there is...
yeah, I think it's Flying V. Right? Flying V.
Have any of you been in a Kickstarter campaign, a crowdsourced funding campaign? Has anyone paid money for a product on the way? Yeah, a few. More and more of you will do it, and this is a great source of funding because customers are telling you in advance they will buy the product. This makes it easier for you to convince other investors that you have a real market. Some banks and also some investors will say, I'm going to give you a loan, but later on, if you raise capital, I want to turn that loan into stock. And they do that because they don't really know, and you don't know how much the company is worth. So to avoid the risk of saying too low or too high, you just make it a loan to begin with, and then when the angel investors invest, this can convert from debt to equity, to shares. And an angel investor is a person who invests his own money or her own money, often a successful entrepreneur. Sometimes the son or daughter of a successful entrepreneur, and their parents have given them some money to go invest so they can create a company of their own. Super angels are people who invest not only their money, but others' money as well. Venture capital firms and what we call micro venture capital firms are all in the same business. The difference is how big is the fund. A micro VC typically has between $5 million US and $100 million US to invest. They can invest in smaller amounts earlier when it's still riskier. Often they invest with angels. The traditional venture capital firms may have a fund that is 500 million US dollars or 1 billion US dollars. And so they typically will invest larger amounts. For example, a micro VC might invest $250,000, but for most venture capitalists, they want to invest at least 1 million, maybe 2 million. So you have to wait till later in the process before you take the VC's money. The next source are big companies who see in small companies a chance for them to innovate. So we call these strategic partners because they're not just trying to get a return on their money, they're trying to have you make a product that will have other people buy more of their products. An example would be a semiconductor company like Intel. Intel invests in startups, hoping they will make things like phones and computers and music devices that will have Intel chips inside. And there are many other companies around the world that want to do that. Google also. Google's an example of a company that likes to invest in other companies to help them. Finally, once you're profitable, you can go to a regular bank and say, please give me a loan. Because now the risk is low enough that they can lend you the money without fear that it will be lost. And then you may say, as the entrepreneur, I would actually like to exchange some of my stock that I have in the company for cash. So an IPO is an initial public offering. It means you sell your stock to the public for the very first time on a stock market. So initial public offering, IPO. Or you can merge or be acquired by another company, often a larger company. So some of you may have heard that, for example, Facebook would invest billions of dollars in a company like Snapchat, right? And Google invests billions of dollars in other small companies as well. That's what we mean by M&A. Oops, sorry. Next is competitors, okay?
Okay. 竞争对手。那谈到竞争方面，其实是一块很大块的东西。竞争对手其实太多好谈了。那在 Gear Up 里面，我们用我们的看法就是把竞争对手分成2种。那你们知不知道有一本书叫做《Blue Ocean Strategy》？ Blue Ocean 蓝海战略还是 OK， 那 we go to the next slide。我解释一下，所以 Red Ocean 就代表红海，就代表有很多竞争者。如果你是日鱼的话，这是很多竞争者。红海是因为很多血，因为大家咬来咬去都受伤了。蓝海就是只有你，没有其他人，所以是蓝色，海还是蓝色。那就代表说红海就是其实你的产品有很多竞争者，很多人也有同样的产品，所以你们在那里拼。蓝海就是你的产品是新的，所以没有真正的竞争者。如果你在红海里面，如果你在那里如果你有竞争者，现有竞争者的话，那你得超越他们，那你可以比他们便宜，比他们快，比他们更好。那举例就是 Google， 那 Google， 我相信大家现在都是用 Google 在搜寻东西。不过其实 Google 刚出来的时候 ，not first to market， 他们不是第一个出来，让你浏览或者搜寻的东西。有 Yahoo、InfoSeek、Lycos 这些人都已经不见了。Yahoo 今天其实没有真的在做搜寻，他们是在做那个 content， 对不对？为什么 Google 不是第一个去市场的？不过还是能够赢，因为他们的搜寻技巧比较好，比较快，然后他们的 design、他们的设计也比较好。然后之后，他们把品牌建立在 OK， 我们能够搜寻世界所有的资料，然后让品牌继续的拉客户进来。所以，如果你有竞争者，你一定要想出怎么超越他们，像 Google。如果你是在蓝海里面，就是你的产品真的是很新，你的喜悦感是非常的强，那你能够成立那个规则，你能够颠覆现有的市场。比如说 Airbnb 和 Uber， 在他们出现之前，就市场就是这样，你就去路上找一个计程车打电话。不过Uber 直接让你从 APP 里面 就找到一个也不需要是计程车的人来载你从 A 到 B。所以如果你要颠覆市场的话，你要改变游戏规则，那你要很快的建立你自己，建立你的品牌，因为很多蓝海一下子就变红海了。因为像 Uber 其实也有竞争者，在新加坡 Grab Taxi， 在世界各地 Lyft 也是他们的竞争者。所以你有创新的东西，你应该从第一天就知道，后个礼拜就会有人抄袭你的产品，那你该怎么做？所以我想说的就是，竞争者分蓝海和红海。蓝海的时候你要快点进去，然后红海的时候你要发现你如何比竞争者更强。I'm good.
I'm hearing the translation. Next go global. Almost forgot. So, this is my favorite year because I love to go to new countries and help to build a more peaceful world by helping startups and large companies create products that will sell around the world. So you create jobs, you create great products that people will love, you pay taxes in different countries, and so the countries will be more in harmony if there's business between them. So there is a framework to think about how to go global. It helps you pick the time. I'm going to go back and forth because unfortunately my Mandarin is not so good, and I haven't memorized English. So the first is a market opportunity, and what we're really saying there is, is most of the market for your product outside your own country. Taiwan is a fairly small company by population. So is Singapore, so is Israel, so is Switzerland, right? And so is Sweden for that matter. And so those countries tend to think about going global right away. The United States, China, Canada, Brazil, Russia, sometimes it takes a little longer. But in any case, you need to go global because if you don't, a competitor in those other countries will have a product much like yours by the time you want to go. So are the markets outside your own country? Are you working with customers that are very large and they're global? Companies, for example, like Microsoft had this problem when it was younger. Big companies like Hewlett-Packard and Johnson & Johnson said to Microsoft, you need to change your whole product. You need to provide people who really understand how to work with us in all the countries that we operate. And through that, in response to what those companies needed, I was lucky to help Microsoft create what's called a global account management program, which served their largest customers. So there were Microsoft people around the world to help them. And also there were systems that were helpful to those companies as well. Sometimes you just want to be global. And as you think about it, especially, no, all of you, but think about those of you who are now university students or just out. When you start the company, you ask yourself, if I'm going to be working for 50 or 60 years, do I want to do it all in one place, or do I really dream that I could be traveling to countries around the world and offering our products and services? The ability to execute means that the founders can, in some way, know about different countries. The easiest way to solve this problem is to have a larger founding team that has people from more than one country. So in the Europe example, when we started, there were 3 only, 2 from Sweden, 1 from the US. But very quickly, we went to our friends, people like Kay, who is in Singapore, other colleagues in Indonesia, in Thailand, in China, in Chile, in Mexico, and said, would you like to work with us and bring this to your country? And so part of why we're very excited about being here in Taiwan is we're hoping that some of you will become partners and will deliver Gear Up to help startups and big companies in Taiwan. By the way, we call these partners Global Gear Up Black Belt, right? Just like in martial arts. It means you're very fierce and you can help the people that you work with to be successful. Okay. In terms of arbitrage, that means that you take advantage of the lower costs in some other countries. And there are Taiwanese investors and Taiwanese businesses that have put some operations in mainland China because it's less expensive to make some of the products there. So that would be an example of outsourcing. Many companies in the United States, for their software, will outsource the development to a country like India, for example, or Manila in the Philippines for customer support. Sometimes you do it for what we call strategic positioning, which means go there first. When Microsoft was still a fairly young company, 1986, it was not the leading software company for spreadsheet or word processing and so on in the US. But what Microsoft did was say, let's go to Europe first, and then to the countries in Asia. We will be the market leaders, and then when those other companies from the US want to come, we'll already be there. And that's one of the big reasons for Microsoft's success around the world. And if you think about Google and what it has done as a search engine, part of what it allows you to do is search in many different languages, right? And that was part of their delight as a product, that they could spread Google around the world very, very quickly. Sorry that I went to that, okay. So replicability means if you make more of them, you can have a lower cost and therefore achieve an advantage. That is especially important in industries like semiconductors and automobiles, aircraft, where there's a lot of capital needed. It's not as important for software. Medical devices will be another one where it can be very important. And then finally, you might want to reduce the risk. So imagine your company has a very successful business in Taiwan, but who knows? Maybe the economy in Taiwan will have a little up or down. If you have business in other countries that don't have the same economic cycle, you can actually do better by being diversified. So I want all of you to take just a moment and write down the names of 3 cities that you'd like to do business in the future. I'm looking, I don't see anybody writing anything down. You can also type it into your smartphone. Of course, then I don't know whether you're texting your friend or whether you're typing the 3 cities, right? I'm serious. So think of 3 cities outside of Taiwan that if you could, you would be able to do business around the world. And then through the rest of the day, please compare notes with one another. Because what you will find is there are people in this room who also want to go to those same cities. There may be people in this room who have business colleagues in those same cities, right? And that can make it easier for you to successfully go global. This may sound like a silly exercise, but honestly, when we do this in companies of any size, and they realize that there are some countries that those companies really want to be in first, it helps to accelerate their growth and makes them more successful faster.
Okay, team, all right， 对。那我再看时间，我们没什么时间，快一点。团队谈三件事情。第一件就是我们 Gear Up 的想法，就是从一个职衔的想法换成一个角色的想法或者角色的想法。那我们有不同的角色，那当然我们最重要的，我们叫他做传教士。那传教士，如果你是创业者，就是你了。你要找钱，你要找资源，你要找人来加入你，帮忙你，所以你一定要能够非常知道你的目标是哪里，然后也心里要非常的了解，所以要非常对这个事业有热忱。那除了那个以外呢，还有就简单的说是，好，我简单谈2个其他的角色。第一个是行政者，比如为什么行政者很重要？有些人创业的时候或创新的时候在想说，没关系，我们不用再想这方面。如果像刚才那样，你要建造一个新会飞的汽车的话，你的行政者会在做什么呢？他会去查法律，有关于飞行汽车的法律或者飞行的法律，因为你不要把汽车建好了以后，那你说OK 我要卖了，然后政府说你不能这样做哦，因为你汽车飞起来怎么行？行政者的工作就是确保在法律方面、税务方面、财经方面不会有问题。因为当你创新创业的时候，你想的只是那个 idea， 那个产品，不要忘了有时候有些问题也要照顾到。然后创新者就是能够想到喜悦感的那个人。有时候当你有一个 idea 的时候，那你就一直在那里做，或者在研发的时候， 你还是需要有一个创新者在那里提醒你说，哎，我们客户到底要怎么样，到底需要什么东西，他们的痛处在哪里，我们要怎么样帮助他们。所以创新者，他不是一个职衔，不过你团队里面一定要有一个人，时时刻刻的在想，我们可以怎么样创新，可以怎么样的做一些其他不同的东西。那是第一点。第二点，所以就是第一点就是，你可以想职衔，不过也想一想，你团队里面不同人扮演不同的角色。第二点就是在哪里可以找到人。那举例就是，创新者有时候不需要是直接聘请来的员工。有一段时间在 social media 社群网的时候，在5年前，如果公司要说我们要上脸书还是怎么样推广我们的产品，其实你是请不到人的。5年前，大家已经工作的人都不太熟悉这种脸书要怎么样做啊，还是怎么样。5到10年前吧，其实真正会用脸书的人都还在读大学，都还是相当年轻的人，所以那时候公司就得找实习生，所以那职衔基本上就是 social media intern， 也就是代表你的社区网的实习生，所以你也要想想。你的团队的人要从哪里找到？那是第二点。第三点，这个画面其实要说的是，先找你要跟谁一起组织团队，再决定你们要去哪里。所以先把人带上公车里面，再决定公车要驾到哪里。为什么？因为如果你是通常人家想说，我有一个 idea， 我有一个远景，那我就迈向那个远景走。那在路上我就找，你可以帮我，好，你也可以帮我，那我们一起来。不过当你创新的时候，你要找一些能够信任的伙伴，因为有时候你的 idea 会变，idea 变，目标变的时候，那怎么办？那些人都不要了吗？所以目标变了没关系，只要你的团队是你喜欢、你能够信任的，那他们就不会变。
Last year's reality tested, it's all about managing risks. The business leaders and entrepreneurs who are here already know this, and they have their own ways of doing it. What we have is a reminder to those of you who are new entrepreneurs to think about what could go wrong to make the new product fail. First is the customers in the market. Are there enough customers that will pay so you have a sustainable business? Second is the product or technology. Will the flying car really fly? What if it only crashed 10% of the time? Would you buy one? Probably not. Next is team. Think about what Kay just said. You've got to get the right people on the bus, and you've got to have people who can attract other good people. Next is financial risk. Do you think of the slide we showed earlier about raising money from your family, or angels, or venture capitalists, or bank loans? Each kind of funding carries with it a different kind of risk. Then you have the intellectual property risk, sorry. If you were, for example, to take your innovation into certain other countries, such as China or Brazil, and Russia as an example, their laws on intellectual property are not the same, and very soon you'll have people copying what you're doing. But thinking about how to protect your innovations globally is quite important. And last but not least, remember what Kay said about the administrator. You need to understand what the government risks are with each new country that you enter. So what you would do as a team is identify what they are, but then you would say, can we prevent them? What can we do to keep that from happening? Or what do we do if it does happen? What's our contingency plan? And by practicing this on a regular basis with new product innovations, you get very, very good at responding to challenges when they arise. So thank you very much for your time and patience. Remember, Europe is a system. When all the gears are working together correctly, you increase the chances that your innovation will succeed as you go around the world.
Let's stay on this side. Thank you.
If you have questions, we have a little time.
有问题吗？我们还有一点时间。
You set the timer so you don't work.
10 minutes.
Any questions? I think you want to go on a break. I hope it doesn't mean that you're bored or confused. I hope it means interesting. Because each of you has an innovator in your heart. And many of you have been innovators for your careers. I'm looking at the people in the first 2 rows here. Very successful innovators.
I got one question. Can I ask?
Sorry.
Yeah.
You.
So what is the size, the best size for this methodology? Is there any size limit for this gear up?
When you say
Like
size of
the size of the company.
Oh, no. But
Is there any limit
great
for?
question. Sorry. So the question is, what's the size of the company that can use Gear Up? Because you do Gear Up in teams, you can have a company of any size. If it's just at the beginning and you have 4 people in your company, then they would work on Gear Up together. And they might even bring some partners with them to do the Gear Up with their partners. We have been working with multi-billion-dollar companies that have different divisions. And what they do is they bring 4 or 5 people from each division. Each division has an idea for a new innovation, and they work through together. But they also can learn from the other divisions. So if you had 5 divisions in one big company, you would be doing this together, and each division would learn from the other. This really helps. Remember the integration, which is the theme of the conference. This is a way that large companies or business partners can integrate more successfully.
Yeah. And we, with the big companies, we tend to work with them to create a culture of innovation. The problem is the leaders of the companies understand innovation and importance, but the rest of the company, they're stuck in their work and all that. So we need a common language, common vocabulary, words or areas that the whole company can look at and talk about together. So innovation, that's how we find Gear Up getting used in larger companies.
One last thing, we've worked with a number of family businesses, and so they're the team that does Gear Up is the family. Sons and daughters, mom and dad, sometimes aunts and uncles. The dynamics are a little bit different in a family business than in other businesses, but it works. Yes.
I have a question about the reality check. So it looks to me like it's more like a risk management tool. Is that correct?
Absolutely right.
Yes.
It's a simple tool for risk management.
Okay, so it conclude and summarize the whole other gears and then do the risk management.
Well, what I would say is, say if we were going to do this with a group of companies, we would say at the beginning, we would go over just a little bit each of the 9 gears, so that at the very beginning, at the very first day, people would know they should be thinking about the risks. And then as you go gear by gear, what are the risks with customers? What's the risk with the like? So even though it appears at the end, as people use the Gear Up system, they're thinking about it all through. Because if you wait to the very end to think about risk, you might get to the end of it and say, it's not going to work, right? So you think about it all the way through.
Yeah. And that's another bit just to jump on, and what Tom said is the rapid prototyping. You want to do the 9 gears very quickly so you can do the risk management. Because I think what we want to avoid is you spend 3 months working on the first 8 gears and then half a year developing products, and then you realize, oh, let's do the last year, and then there are a lot of risks that you could have mitigated earlier. So what we advocate is do the 9 gears very quickly in a single day, and then iterate it. So keep going through the 9 gears again.
Well, I would say between a single day or 3 half days,
Yeah.
you could do 1, 2, 3 days, or you could do half day, day off, half day, day off, half day, day off. The reason that we do that often is to get people to go out and talk to customers and channel partners about what they're thinking about, so that they don't get to the very end of the exercise.
Can I have
Wait,
another?
could we? Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. I'm from China, Mainland. And I have a question is, is there any differences between opening a company in mainland China and here in Taiwan? All the 9 gears works all time in worldwide.
So let me answer the second question first, because I don't know the answer to the first. The second question is, can you use Gear Up worldwide? I can tell you where we know it's working. Not only China, but many parts of China. I've been to, I think, 7 or 8 different cities when we do use Gear Up. So we know it works in China. We're hoping it will work in Taiwan. We don't know for sure. But Philippines, Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, Mexico, Chile, Sweden, Denmark, United States, all have used it successfully. We don't know whether it works everywhere, but we know that it works. And the business leaders in the room at the break, you should ask some of them as well, because many of them have operated businesses that have been in other countries, and they'll have a point of view. They may say, I don't think it will work. What I would say is, it will work. You will customize it depending on what country you're in, even what city you're in, what industry you're in. So if you're in the medical technology business or medical devices, different from an iPhone app, right? So, but you would always apply it to fit the industry, the country, the city.
Okay, thank you. You have already answered my both questions.
Well, but no, but honestly, so those of you who, and I will turn to some of our colleagues who are experienced entrepreneurs, is there a difference in doing business in China and Taiwan? I suspect there is. I just don't know what the differences are. People are saying, talk to them at the break, okay? Because there are many experts in the room who know how to do business in Taiwan. I have no idea. In fact, I may have completely made a terrible mistake to come. I may have embarrassed my colleagues who brought me. I don't know. Hope not.
Can I address the last question?
Sure.
And the question is, how do you do innovation revolution in a traditional industry, such as constructions or food production, like producing in the traditional industry rather than the high tech?
Okay, but we have used Europe in traditional industries. You think tin is so mining tin to make aluminum foil, pretty traditional, right? But the largest tin company in China said, we need to revolutionize ourselves. We need to think differently about the whole value chain for tin. Also, they said, we want to enter the clean energy business. And so they used it to diversify. We have had experience with people that are in fashion, in retail, in food. So the thing, again, what happens is you have to adapt any framework, right? You have to adapt it to the things that are special about that industry. And even within the industry, you can have a company that has, you could have a construction company, for example, that mainly builds buildings for governments. Or another that does mainly commercial, where companies rent the space. Or another one that does residential for people to have homes or apartments. Different industry, different application, slightly different tweaking, but the basic gears are there. Yeah. And there might even be for an industry another gear you'd have to add. Yeah. Right? We can talk about that a little later too.
I think with traditional companies, I would point you towards the delight gear, Xue. Because if you, say for construction, if you look at the trends that are appearing, the challenge is how do you apply a trend to the construction industry? So for example, trend is 3D printing, so they're printing little gadgets, little accessories from small 3D printers. But you probably would also know that there are construction companies using cement to print houses. So that's taking a trend and then applying it to delight the customers. Traditional industries like construction, and I know because I worked with a construction company recently, they looked at precast, they looked at 3D printing. And then another trend that's hitting the entire world is data analytics and information. So then building information modeling as a software comes in really handy because it delights the customer, because anytime you have a blueprint and it's 3D, with the BEAM software, if you want to make a change, like I want to change this, the software calibrates it entirely and say, this is how it look like. With this beam here, you've got to strengthen it because it's got the band alone. So I think with traditional industries, it's still about looking at trends. And some trends may not seem apparent, like data science and analytics may not seem apparent, but you think about how do you bring that into your industry. And that's the challenge of the innovator from that particular company.
One last example, I was fortunate to be invited to Indonesia 2 years ago and met their Professor Muhammad Yunus, who invented microfinance. And so I was actually giving a little bit about Gear Up at the same conference that he was talking about microfinance. So you can use Gear Up to help in very poor rural areas. Maybe it's a mother who would like to do handicraft and then sell it over the internet to customers around the world. It applies. So it's simple enough to understand, and the difficulties in the execution, which depends on the industry, the country, the city or village.
Have we got time for two?
I just want to satisfy my curiosity. Actually, innovation and creativity sounds quite attractive. But to my knowledge, after many startup companies or enterprise didn't succeed, and maybe I wonder if you have the statistic of how much percentage, maybe 70, 80, failed after opening their company, and what's the main reason, and how to overcome this obstacle, and can they try again to have another enterprise?
So in much research, they say about 80% fail, and in Silicon Valley it's even more. And they fail mainly for two reasons. One, there's not a large enough market for the product, so they haven't done year 1 and 2. And two, there's a problem between the founders, and they break apart. Those are the two main reasons that the companies fail. And we don't know whether Europe will keep founders from breaking up, right? We don't know, but those are the two reasons: small markets and team breakup. And the product doesn't do what you thought would be the third one, but it isn't.
But just to jump in on a little bit, but certainly founders who have failed are prized in Silicon Valley because you are experienced in the process. So certainly if you fail once, actually VCs like it that you've got that experience as opposed to a newbie who don't know anything. So the failure bit is, at least in Silicon Valley, and I think to a certain extent Singapore is not an issue. It's a plus.
What can you can do one last question?
Yeah, Tom, I just want to know do you have any experience in media or content development, like film or game design, and because that is not really the product,
So because it's so much imagination.
Yeah.
Short answer, but we have to talk more. You see the Mickey Mouse time I don't watch. I wanted to go to Hollywood when I was a boy. My parents were strict Catholics, and they said, if you go to Hollywood, you'll lose your soul. So I wasn't able to go to Hollywood. We have worked with electronic arts. I've worked with electronic arts. I haven't done Europe with them, but I worked with them for about 7 or 8 years, so in terms of digital gaming. And I am a great fan of music and movies and that sort of thing. And so I've done informal things with people who are innovating in that space and love it. I mean, I think those industries there's so much potential for innovation. And we've done a little bit of Europe. We're hoping to do more. But yes, I have had some experience. Those are the industries that I dream of. At this point, I'm not going to become an actor. But anyway, great industries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
那我们12点就准时开始下一个